Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by Park University. It certainly was a tumultuous and emotion-filled, lengthy, and extended weekend, to say the least, as far as football was concerned, all the way from the angst of Thursday night, combined with an excellent victory by the Kansas City Chiefs, and on into a weekend which featured an incredibly wide range of emotions that prompted me to write a blog over the weekend that you can catch at DannyClinkscale.com. That was called Riding the Angst Train. That was kind of a fan's view of the emotions that go on in the world of sports when you are living and dying with the results. A more analytical approach always with Stan, although we certainly have fun, and we both certainly are fans as well. We'll break down the entire weekend from Thursday in pro football through Sunday and a tumultuous Saturday, to use the word tumultuous too many times, as Kansas State, Kansas, and Missouri had wildly different emotions that ended up with a win, a loss, and a almost win? A Pyrrhic victory? I don't know. We'll check it all out. Coming up next on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend. It's all presented by Park University.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention, and our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. Dan, certainly a long and extended weekend has created a whole lot, as I said on the open to this particular podcast, and we've had everything from really bad emotions to relief to Missouri fans who always seem to have something to feel really bad about every now and then, even when things seem so good. So a lot to cover on this time around. First of all, just your initial reaction when Patrick Mahomes barges ahead for a first down, and then it looks real bad.
Well, obviously, the air gets taken out of your body really quick, and you say, there's a pile of two guys, and he's really slow getting up, and I was wondering which was hurt. I thought it might have been the center. Could have been Patrick, and then we find out it's Patrick Mahomes, and just wonder, did he blow out his knee, and is he out for the year? And how will it affect the rest of his career? Usually you can come back from an ACL injury okay, but yeah, it's very surprising because that quarterback sneak does not seem that dangerous normally. Happens all the time. Tom Brady, who, if it were a super dangerous play, you don't think Bill Belichick would put Tom Brady in that situation.
And he does it all the time.
And they do it all the time. It's a key play of theirs, and Tom Brady's really good at it. So, you just wonder, does that send the Super Bowl chances out the window? Then the other things come to my mind when people talk about, will there be regression after a superstar, unbelievable season? And there's been a lot of debate about that. Not with the talent that Patrick Mahomes had. And then I kind of shook my head to myself and said, this is the reason why there are things where the statistics aren't the same year after year after year. And I said Dan Marino's second year reminded me a lot of Patrick Mahomes' second year, his first year starting. But Dan Marino went off, and he did replicate a season like that maybe once, you could argue twice later in his career, but it was not an every-year thing. It truly was the exception. Dan Marino was a dynamic quarterback the whole time, but that year was off the charts. And here we go. Patrick Mahomes' numbers will not be as great this year. They may be on a per-game basis,
right?
But they're not. And that's the factor that comes into play. You get beat up. Injuries kind of linger later in your career. Later doesn't mean 37-year-olds. I mean, when you're 28 years old, stuff hurts that people don't know about. A sore elbow from 4 years ago kind of bothers you, things like that. So I'm not all down on what Patrick Mahomes may do, but he just immediately made me think of a statement I kept harping on last year when we spoke, you and I and Kevin on Between the Lines. Don't ever take for granted when you have the team that can go win a Super Bowl. You got to go do it. And you can't just say, oh, darn, we missed barely, we're going to come back. Even though the Royals did that, it doesn't happen that often. But the other side of the coin is we now know all the information without appearing so negative and, this year isn't the same as last. The Chiefs still are absolutely a Super Bowl contender. And you don't have to reference 69 and Mike Livingston coming in. He was actually, I believe, the second quarterback that came in. He wasn't even the second stringer. He was the third. But he came in for a while, and the Chiefs went on and won the Super Bowl in 1969. Even though they were good enough to win it in 68 and 70, it was 69 that they won the Super Bowl. They could do that again this year. I think the division is clear. That's the big thing right now. You look at what happened. The Chargers just do not have any good luck. They're not playing well. They're injured. I don't think the Chargers can keep up with the Chiefs almost no matter what happens while Patrick Mahomes is gone. So, boy, it gives you a big cushion to know that you're going to win the division. You can take a deep breath and say, we can get better. We can be a Super Bowl team that's hitting their stride at the end of the year. And one reason why is Patrick Mahomes' left ankle is actually going to get a little time off. There is a little silver lining possibly in this equation.
Yeah, some people thought about him sitting out anyway. And, now the two legs are completely unrelated, obviously. And the only other thing I thought of is, and everybody who ever has tweaked their knee was suddenly an expert, but I ruptured my patellar tendon. Okay, he did not. But the patellar tendon is there to keep your kneecap in place. And I found that off firsthand because when I had my injury, I looked down and my kneecap was up halfway up my thigh, and that's what it's there for. So in not being a doctor in any way, shape, or form, all I could ever think of is if the knee popped out, the tendon has got to be compromised in at least some way. I mean, otherwise it wouldn't have popped out. And they popped it back in, and to me it's kind of akin, what I kept thinking of was that when somebody has a shoulder that pops out, well, usually it keeps on popping out. Now, I'm not going to say that his knee has really been compromised because everything seems to be really good. But that's what popped up in my head is the fact that if these stretchy ligaments that are actually not that stretchy, they're supposed to be taut and tight and keep your kneecap in place. If one time they let the knee pop out, there's got to be some damage there. No matter whether they say it's minimal, it almost has to be some, to me anyway.
I think so. I guess you got to hope that the pressure and the angle was just right, that it just slid it through smoothly. And when they popped it back, it's crazy that they did it right there on the field without even thinking about it. So maybe the body was saying, boom, it's back and not forced in. To me, it's been with a little bit of knowledge I have not dislocated my kneecap, but I've dislocated my finger. And let me tell you, Danny, when I dislocated it once, it led to a second time. It took a while, but the second time took less time to go to the third. And here we are for many, 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 many years. I put tape around a certain finger at the knuckle because if not, I could easily get it hit doing activities and it would just pop right out. So there is a new opening, I guess you'd say, that's not true of his left knee in that same situation. Now, to what degree? Again, it's usually a smaller degree. In my experience, it was smaller, but as soon as it happened a second time, and the one that never was dislocated, the same finger on the other hand, has never come close to being dislocated. There's a difference here. Right. Once it slid out and I popped it back, yeah, it works fine. I didn't have to go to the doctor. I didn't have to have surgery. But it's a little bit easier to pop out the next time. So it's really going to be important for us to watch and
I just hope that we end up forgetting about this, literally.
That,
nothing else happens for 4 years. And then if something happens 4 years down the line, I'm not even going to attribute it to this.
Exactly. But in the next 6 to 9 months, that second time becomes the second time. Now, I don't know the bracing procedures, if you can put a brace in because there's a lot of knee braces that leave the middle of your knee open.
Right.
It seems to me like you might be able to put something on where that knee cap is kind of stuck in the middle and can't slide out easily.
Right.
I mean, I'm not talking about a major hit. I'm just, slide out. And these players can wear knee. I mean, Tom Brady wears a giant knee brace.
Right.
And that will not take away from Patrick Mahomes' excellence if they decided, let's put a knee brace on, and it's more like a sleeve to him. It feels like a sleeve. And he might play with it for the rest of the year and then just decide it's part of his uniform, like his number. I mean, most of us who played sports at a big-time level feel pretty comfortable when we have the right number on, junk like that. So let's see. I'm not saying there is a brace. I really don't know much about this injury, but it's really good news that other collateral damage did not occur because it would have been just such a tragedy as an NFL football fan, as a Chiefs fan, and all those things. But after we get through this and get focused back on football, the Chiefs were a division-winning team year after year after year before there was a Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And we've fallen so in love with him. He's on every commercial. My wife doesn't even watch football that much. She goes, it looks like Patrick Mahomes has been on every commercial when I walk by, nationally, locally. I mean, it seems like the whole team is Patrick Mahomes, and really that's not true. It's awesome to have him. But the Chiefs were division champions without him, and that is the good news, that you can go back and lean on a football team and win a lot of games even without Patrick Mahomes.
I have to ask you this, and I know where I lie on this, and I think others have registered this thought as well. We want to feel good about the fact that the Chiefs really did a good job after Patrick Mahomes came out of the game. But I, for the moment, am going to put a lot of that on the Broncos. I think the Broncos almost seemed to have as much of a letdown as the Chiefs did in the game. It was like, well, we came here to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and now we got Matt Moore over there. What's going on? And I just thought they kind of quit, to be honest, especially when they didn't capitalize right away. I didn't jump on them right away, and the defensive touchdown came. And once the defensive touchdown came, I think their defense is like, well, we're done. We're done for today. And, they roared right down the field the first time. And the defense had a bunch of sacks, and, Joe Flacco isn't very mobile back there. But, hell, he was just, basically planting his right foot, and he was getting hit. How much of a percentage do you put on the Chiefs, rallying the troops? Perhaps this was a step forward to them, or how much was it the Broncos just kind of laying down?
Well, it was mostly the Broncos were just a easy team to beat,
right?
But you have to go beat them. So let me put that in context, because if you just stop right there and you have to turn the podcast off, I'm in trouble, because this has to be explained. First of all, Reggie Ragland was inserted in the lineup and played at a high level, starting with a 2-point conversion stop. That was a big momentum getter for the Chiefs, because the Broncos looked like because of penalties, not because of just the running game, but because of penalties and other stuff. Here you go again, defense. You're in trouble. You can't stop us. We're going to dictate the game. And the Broncos had that perfect formula. But when they went for two, as crazy as it seems, the Chiefs bowed their back up, and Reggie Ragland made a great play. And Reggie Ragland was a good insertion into the lineup. Great move by the Chiefs. Anthony Hitchens played at a very high level. And that gets to a little bit of what my theme about this game is, Danny. I don't know if you've heard me say this yet, but for those that haven't, the theme of the game is Thursday nights are a sleepy little football game. We've had some good games this year, but over the last 4 or 5 years, Thursday night football has been really hard to watch. Usually one team gets ahead and the other one just quits and lets them win easily, or both teams are just a complete dud, don't look like themselves, don't have the spark. Really, their muscles don't seem to be moving at that quick twitch pace, and they all accept it. It's almost like when there used to be really muddy games and the game would still be even, and you'd finish 13-10 and no one was really down on themselves if they didn't complete a pass or fumbled because, hey, it's muddy and you're going to do the same. It's kind of a mucked-up game, and it's just been sleepy. Thursday night football's bad. I mean, every time I see a Thursday night game, I wonder, am I losing my love for the NFL? Am I getting too old? Am I putting this into perspective compared to real life? Then I get to Sundays and I go, no, man, these dudes are playing and it's fun. Right. They cannot recover quick enough to get back in Thursday. I don't know if it's mentally, if it's no practice, if the coaches just tell them, I know you have no energy, but no one is locked in on these games. Thursday night football is bad NFL football. So that's the way the game unfolds. Well, who are two of the guys that have a spark? Guys who haven't been playing. Reggie Ragland's not worn out.
Right.
He'd hardly played, and Hitchens comes back. They look like they were in a different speed. Like I had them in my fast-forward speed and everyone else in normal.
Right.
And those guys went out and made plays. So the defensive touchdown was a giant play to let the Broncos know you're in big trouble. The Chiefs are playing pretty good on defense, and now you're not getting the breaks. And Flacco's a joke, just dropping the ball. I mean, he wasn't even getting hit hard. Yeah, he was getting hit, but he wasn't moving, and he's letting the ball fall to the ground. It was lethargic. Even Troy Aikman, which these national announcers do not call out players.
Right.
Hardly at all, was calling him out like, wake up, are you even out here? And that was hardly into the third quarter. Do you even care? Saying stuff like that about Flacco. So I know he can't move in the pocket, but now let's turn it over to the Chiefs. Spagnuolo had a great game plan. First of all, he started the game with 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. I mean, it looked like old school football. We are not going to allow you to run. Reggie Ragland's up here. Hitchens is back, and we got guys at the line of scrimmage. Tyrann Mathieu, those guys are making tackles at the line of scrimmage. They just flat out said, you are not going to beat us running the football. And that's a great way to start, because if you do allow them to run, they're going to get beat down 50 yards down the field. You just dare them to throw a pass and try to get 20 or 30 or 50 yards, because you know Denver's game plan was to come out and pound the rock.
Sure.
So the Chiefs overplayed the run, very smart. And then when they realized that the pass rush could cause havoc, the blitzing. Remember, the Broncos basically didn't practice. They didn't prepare a lot for the Chiefs. And he did a great job of strategizing and bringing the blitzes and the twist and totally taking the game. So, I think putting Reggie Ragland in and Steve Spagnuolo calling the game the way he did took all the air out of the game. And so the Chiefs deserve a lot of credit. Now, here's the play that I want to talk about, Danny, that gave the Chiefs the victory. The Chiefs had everything going for them after the defensive touchdown. But there was one play the Broncos had where Lindsey was going off right tackle from right to left on your TV screen. They're about the 30-yard line, and he stepped through, and it looked like he was going to gain 5 or 6 yards, and all of a sudden you look, and I think they said it on the TV, he got tripped up and kind of fell forward with no one around him for a 7 or 8 yard gain. If he wouldn't have been tripped, he was housing that thing. Or a 50-yard run. That's all Denver needed to do to wake up and also show the Chiefs that you have overextended yourself. All the players were on their toes for the Chiefs going forward. Stop the run, blitz, and they weren't paying for it. And finally the Broncos gashed them. And when teams overplay the run like that, Danny, it's 0, -1, 4, 0, 2, and you get demoralized, but then all of a sudden, bang, 80 yards. There's only one wave of players instead of the normal 2 or 3. And you just got to outrun that free safety. If Denver would have gone on a long touchdown run, they would have had hope. Their lineman would have blocked with a different optimism. Like if I just hit my blocks, I know there's too many guys up here, but if I hit my block and open that hole up just a little bit more, we can get out of here. And if Denver would have scored a touchdown to pull within a score, it could have been a real game again. But that little trip up was the last hope. And the Broncos really didn't run a good offensive play after the first drive the rest of the night. So what do we make it of all? Great win. Great win.
Yeah.
Think about going into that game, how nervous you were. And then think how nervous you were when it was 6-0. And they kicked that PAT right on through, and it's 7-0, and they wasted whatever it was, 5 minutes on the clock, and you're going, I know the Chiefs are good, but this isn't going to be easy. I thought the McCole Hardman TD reception was big. If he'd have dropped that, he bobbled it, you remember, on the crossing route. If he would have dropped that and had to kick a field goal, I think I would have sitting there going, wow, this is going to be a game. Denver's up 7-3, and it didn't look like they could run, but they were going to get going at some point. At the end of the day, great win for the Chiefs. You got to dominate your division. When you're the dominating team, you got to let them know. And the Broncos, when they walk into Arrowhead, they're going to walk in with no hope.
Oh,
we always lose to Andy Reid.
Absolutely.
We always lose, and you had to keep that on them. That's great. The big thing is how good is the defense. Reggie Ragland really helped in the running game, and Spagnuolo created confidence. This team just needs some confidence. It never hurts, but I think it's more of a Thursday night issue. You get back to Sunday, Green Bay will be its own little game because it's an Aaron Rodgers game. Aaron Rodgers decides this game. He wins it, or he allows the Chiefs to have a chance to win. I mean, the Chiefs are not good enough to beat Aaron Rodgers if he plays his best. The Raiders played good the other day on Sunday.
Yeah, if Derek Carr doesn't make the dumb fumble into
Right.
the end zone play, that's just sort of a score-for-score game.
Right, but Aaron just took the game in his own hand and said, he has backup receivers. It doesn't matter who his receivers are. When he is on, he is going to win the game, and their running game is more dangerous. So that is not the game to watch for me as being the barometer of the Chiefs is the Minnesota game. Minnesota wants to run the football, and we'll see what the Chiefs' run defense looks like when Minnesota comes in. But as of right now, I think the Chiefs have made a step forward, but I still think they're Achilles' heels defense. I still think it's the run defense, and I think it's a lot about Thursday night football as much as it is, oh, man, the Chiefs' defense is fixed, if that makes sense. But you never, ever spit at a win when you have a 2-game losing streak on the road to Denver in a short turnaround. The road team has such a disadvantage. This was a giant win, and everyone now has confidence and taking on some responsibility. As crazy as it seems, they could use this as a benefit. Everybody focuses on doing their thing. Even Andy Reid, as great as he is, to me, has gotten a little bit cute with why not 20 yards on every play? Why not? Because I got Patrick Mahomes, I got Tyreek Hill. It's going to be hard to beat Andy Reid when he goes back and says, we can have balance in our run game. Let's get Tyreek Hill the football in space quickly. Let's keep it easy for more. And in a sense, football where the offense and the defense value each other. Because Andy puts a lot of pressure on the defense, like zip, 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 Chiefs score. And he doesn't ever act like it is because why wouldn't you want to score? But it's tough on the defense. So here we go. He's going to have to figure out how to play complementary football. Everyone's going to have to play well. And I think that'll bring out the best in a lot of the Chiefs players. So I'm very optimistic that this is the NFL, and they were a division-leading team before Patrick Mahomes. Why aren't they a big-time winning team now? Win 2 out of 4 at least, and probably 3 out of 4 because you're good.
And they got a little bit of breathing room to boot. Lots to chew on in the college game as well. Some of it good, some of it kind of good, some of it really, really bad. That's all ahead next with Stan on Danny and Stan's College and Pro Football Weekend. Actually, that's an expanded title of it. It's really just the Danny and Stan's Football Weekend presented by Park University.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is Where Integrity Matters. Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Back with Stan, talking college football now. And Stan, I guess we got to start with the biggest storyline. The biggest storyline is we sat here last week and tried our damnedest to come up with some scenario whereby the Vanderbilt Commodores could even be competitive against the Missouri Tigers. And lo and behold, on a busy Saturday, yes, indeed, I was doing a lot of DVRing. I knew that the Astros were trying to go to the World Series on Saturday night.
And you are an Astros fan.
And I am an Astros fan, indeed. So I DVR'd the Missouri game, was doing some other stuff. I had watched a lot of college football earlier in the day, and then I just said, well, let me check. I usually won't look at the scores once I DVR a game because I want to watch, even if I want to watch it fast, even if I'm going to watch the game fast. Yeah. But I'm like, I got a lot going on tonight. I got some other college football games. I got to try to figure out a way to at least see some of the Kansas game, whatever. It's the end of the third, but probably about the end of the third quarter now. Let me check that Missouri score, and then maybe I won't even have to watch the game. I can watch it in 10 minutes.
They're 20-point favorites.
And I'm like, it's 14-14 at the end of the third. Are you kidding me? What in the hell? I mean, poor Missouri from the standpoint of the fact that now phrases have been made up. It's on Twitter, and it's like, Missouri's being Missouri. Missouri is out there Missourian, and darned if they didn't do it again at just the time when everything was going so well, and it was just the type of game we said that Vanderbilt couldn't produce.
Yeah.
A low-scoring, down-in-the-muck, 21-14 win. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I guess to be fair, you always got to look in the mirror, and I look like a big idiot on college football game day, breaking this down and figuring out how these teams will function, and I just didn't think it was a good bounce-back day at all for Vanderbilt. Not the day they'd be mad and support their coach. They got beat by UNLV bad at home the week before.
And even with Missouri fans there were 22,000 people in the stands.
If Vanderbilt was mad about losing, and I did think TCU was mad about losing to SMU, so that affected Kansas's game earlier this year, Missouri's the better team. But I really it was more about Vanderbilt. I don't know where they're going to get scoring from. I don't know. Their defense isn't that good. I mean, how are they ever going to find a way to win? And they're not going to be mad. They're just going to be it's so draining when everyone knows your coach should be fired now and the season's a disaster and you lost to UNLV. It's almost embarrassing to play at home, and are you really going to be nervous about playing Missouri? But Vanderbilt went to a different quarterback and just slugged and played the best they could and played with energy, and Missouri just didn't have the spark. overlooked the opponent and did all those things to bring themselves in that situation. And then there was a illegal hit that knocked out the quarterback, so they went back to the starter who wasn't very good, and he immediately throws it to Missouri. You turn it on, it was 14-14. I was monitoring it, Danny. It was 14-7. And Vanderbilt was in complete control in a weird, old-fashioned way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Only one touchdown up, but yeah, you're right. Vanderbilt's in complete control and have the ball, and all of a sudden I see a Missouri guy look up, and a Missouri guy's intercepted a pass and running down the sidelines. And once he got to 14-14, I go, Missouri's going to get off the hook, and the quarterback's gone. Here we go, and still Vanderbilt had more of a push at the end to win. So it's super disappointing. All the upside, ranked 22nd in the country, being undefeated in the SEC East with a real chance to be a factor over there. And now you're looking at 2 losses that just no one can believe. Wyoming on the road, and then obviously Vanderbilt, which is even worse than losing to Wyoming, by the way. I know they're an SEC school, but where they are in the season and everything else, this loss is worse. And now you look at it and say, well, instead of being all confident, did you know they play their next game on the road against Kentucky and their next game on the road at Georgia? So Missouri's got a giant game against Kentucky. Surprisingly, Missouri's about a 10-point favorite, close to a 10-point favorite. I thought people would be a little more conservative, saying, prove it to me on the road. But going into the game, let's talk about what we were thinking before the game, Danny. Nothing about the victory. The margin of victory, even I was out there saying no one should expect to win by 20 points. But if I had to bet, I'm betting on Missouri, rolling these guys up. But we did say, what about the offense? How good's the offense? Kelly Bryant really needs to show us a little more and get ready, gear up. Kentucky's a good defensive team with Mark Stoops as the head coach. And then obviously you got the big game against Georgia. How good is the offense right now? And, boy, the offense just did not show. Just an average performance by the offense would give them 24 points, and they would have cleared Vanderbilt and probably won by 10 and maybe not dominated. But it wasn't there. So now what is the team doing when they look around? Because they've all forgotten he came from Clemson. They've all forgotten all the wins he's had. He's just one of their buddies, or one of the guys on the team who, you didn't perform so well, and we lost to Vanderbilt under your leadership. And you know what? You fumbled that ball away against Wyoming that started the downhill slide.
You threw a bad interception.
The questions, I always tell you, Danny, the questions come fastest from right on the inside, where buddies get in groups and start saying, Clemson had all these great athletes around him. That's why they were, and we don't have those same athletes. So it's going to be important for Barry Odom to get the guys ready this week and take care of business against Kentucky. More than likely, they weren't going to win the SEC East, so they didn't lose that much. And it doesn't matter if they win 10 or 9 or 8 or 9. It does to me. Every game does, and showing a stellar, it matters to me. But in the grand scheme of things, if they get to go to a bowl game, they're going to go to about the same kind of bowl game. They probably weren't going to win the East. Who cares if you get second or third? You can push these losses away, but you cannot let this build. Because if you lose to Kentucky on the road, and it won't be an easy out, then you are an underdog at Georgia. If you do not create a miracle, suddenly you've lost 3 in a row. You got 4 losses already. And even though you always have Florida's number, this Florida team's coached by a different coach in his second year, and they look to me like they're a little more real than some of the other Florida versions. So how do you feel good about not having a 4-game losing streak? And more than likely, the 4-game losing streak is all going to be defined with how they play against Kentucky. So it wasn't an aberration, and Missouri will be back. They'll be focused. They'll be mad. Let's see. But my question really is Kelly Bryant good enough to go win the game against Kentucky? Because Kentucky's chance is to replicate the Vanderbilt game. Hey, can we play a game that's 17-14 or something like that? We'll give you a couple interceptions even if you don't return them all the way to the end zone. But can we play a game? Because Kentucky doesn't think about a 3 in the score. There's no 30 points in there. There's like, let's win 21-17. And Kentucky can create that kind of game. So how good's Kelly Bryant? How good a bounce-back game will he have this week? That's going to be a big, big game for Mizzou.
Well, big game for Kansas State. And I'm going to be very curious. And we didn't do any pre-preparation on this, so I am springing this on Stan, and I very much was waiting to do it. I watched that K-State game, first half live, second half in and out of some things, and then later in depth. I watched it before the baseball game to make sure
You're supposed to say you listen on the radio in the second half.
I did some of that, too. But But indeed, if I listen to you, then I'll know exactly what happened, because your description with Wyatt is so good that it wouldn't even be like, well, I don't know what happened on that play really, but anyway. But I will tell a quick story. I went to a winery during the course of the second half, and I did write a blog about the fans the other day that was up first on Sunday, so you can get that, and how fans have to put up with so much more misery, really, than joy. I mean, that was sort of the template of the whole thing. But there also was a moment in it that was such a real K-State moment. So we go to this winery, and everybody's there, and they're having a wonderful time, and the weather is nice, and they're having a glass of wine, and it's during the second half of the K-State game. And so people are carving pumpkins, or they're throwing bags, or they're playing cards, or they're just chatting it up with their friends, having a good time. All except this very serious couple in the middle of all this proceedings, all clad in purple, hunched over their tablet and watching the Cats. And when they were watching the Cats, what they were watching to me was quintessential K-State football. All day long, I thought TCU was going to win the game. All day long. Down to down, they outgained them by 100 plays, 100 yards. They looked bigger, stronger, faster. I just said, boy, the Cats are hanging in there, but I don't know. You know, this one's going to get away at some point. And they never let it happen, and then they got a couple of big plays, and they won it. That was just that's the kind of win you can really build on, because you can't say you just went out there and kicked their ass. No, you were tough and gritty, and you hung in there until you could make some plays and win.
Yeah, and all you got to look is the difference that you would have, the feeling that K-State fans, that couple, for instance, if they lose to TCU, gain 266 yards, and look and say, we've lost too many of these games. Our offense is not sparking enough. We're not dangerous enough, and we lost another one. And then the next opponent's Oklahoma, and you look back with the 2 weeks off coming at an inopportune time. Not so much for, it's bad to rest at this time. It's just sitting around after a big victory or sitting around after a loss is not good. They couldn't get into a rhythm. So here's K-State, hasn't won since Mississippi State. If they would have lost to TCU, and it was absolutely a coin flip game, for almost every minute of the day.
Yep.
Now, handed to K-State that they kept it to be a coin flip game. For instance, TCU's got some very dangerous wide receivers. The longest pass play of the day, 18 yards.
Right.
Third downs, K-State was second best in the country about getting people off the field, and to continue to play dominant third down defense. Even on fourth down, TCU had a moment where they're going for fourth down because the game was on the line. They had to. It's not a tough decision. And K-State stopped them, and really just no chance on the play. Hit the quarterback, the ball fluttered in the middle of the linebacker area and fell to the ground. K-State is, again, their opponents are 0 for 6 in fourth down conversions this year. So they've been able to make those plays. But a couple things happened for K-State. Number one is they got the lead early with a special team block of a punt that set up a 20-yard touchdown drive. Now, if you look at the games that K-State won, and they're 2-0 in games decided by 7 points or less, it's something I track all the time for K-State teams especially. A lot of successful seasons are because you have a good record in those type of games, and K-State's 2-0 right now. But the theme that is a part of both of them is unbelievable special teams. A kickoff return touchdown against Mississippi State, a block punt against TCU, and TCU's punt return game is the best in the Big 12, and K-State never let them return it. They had 62 and 60-yard punts. And then with the game almost over and K-State needing to decide how do they run out the last 10 or 12 seconds of the game, their punter, Devin Anktel, kicked a 55-yarder that had to be fair caught. How about that? Doesn't matter which way the wind was blowing. K-State's punt team was dominant. The punt return team blocked the kick, and TCU didn't do those things. K-State didn't turn over the football, and they had one big run. They finally busted a 50-yard play, backed up. Skylar Thompson made the big play. And going into the game, we said Skylar Thompson had to be the better quarterback. That's the one place K-State might have an advantage if they could slow down the run, put the game on Max Duggan. And they did, and they didn't let him win the game passing. Now, interestingly enough, we can talk about K-State winning 2 games, Danny, with only 266 and 269 yards in those games, Mississippi State and TCU. Pretty unbelievable that you win games like that. Has to be some special teams and things. But I will point this out before we conclude that, oh, man, TCU is the better team and K-State was feisty and caught a break here or there and made a play and won. Max Duggan ran for over 100 yards, and that's not going to happen again. His 48-yard touchdown run was not good defense by K-State, but they could play TCU 10 straight times, and he's not going to run for 100 yards again. So Skylar Thompson's 61-yard run is unusual, But those 100-plus yards rushing by Max Duggan is also unusual. They kind of offset. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That
Yeah.
maybe both teams should have had 200 and 275 for the game. I mean, that's how
Right.
good the defenses were. But there's no doubt. We said the Big 12 was going to be about playing a lot of even games. And TCU is a team that has just a great coach, a great attitude, weapons, and K-State won the game. And you can say, I can't split all the hairs to tell you why K-State's good, but I also can say A equals B, B equals C, so A equals C. K-State stood down after down with TCU and won the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you look at the odds this week, Texas is a less than a field goal favorite at TCU. Put that in perspective.
Right.
So if K-State's in that range, then yeah, they're going to have to do a lot of things right. Maybe they're going to have a special teams play. But you know my theme, 2 themes. I had the number 1 theme of the year was don't tell me what the name of the team is. Those FCS schools or whatever are good. And the second theme is in the Big 12, it's like the NFL. Are the Buffalo Bills really dominant?
No.
Danny, but
They're 5-1.
But look at their record. They just found a way to win games, which helps you be a better team. And in the NFL, we're not embarrassed about that. The Big 12 is a lot like the NFL. And I've always thought Texas was closer to the pack than they were to Oklahoma. But I was starting to get away from that. You're with me all the time,
Right.
twice a week, and I'm starting to say, okay, Texas is second. You know, they were significantly different than the rest. Well, maybe not. And I've always been, for more than a year, but all this summer, saying Kansas is not trailing the pack nearly as much as everyone else thinks they are, talent-wise, etc. They didn't get the job done against Texas, but they took the Germans' coaching. Carter Stanley woke up and they played, and Kansas is right with the pack, and maybe Texas isn't too far away from the pack as well. If that's true, we got 9 teams that are not that much different and are going to take turns beating each other. K-State just need to get their share. They didn't get it done against Baylor and Oklahoma State. They got it against TCU. It's almost like the odds played out. But I'm telling you, when I'm sitting there and I could get my coin out and flip it like 85 million times during a 4-hour broadcast, Danny, I didn't know who was going to win. You can say, you know, you're sitting back going, I think TCU looks better on each play. At the line of scrimmage, that's fine. But I was just looking at every aspect because K-State was playing from ahead. Remember, they weren't behind. They were always tied or ahead.
Also, you know, both teams punted
They're
7
home.
times. Both teams punted 7 times, and K-State got 130 yards more punting yardage. I mean, you can't discard that. That's called hidden yardage. It's really not hidden. I mean, I've always said, you know, that punting is the most underrated play. How many plays do you gain 45 yards on?
Right.
Well, one of them's a punt if you got a good punter.
And one's 45 and then 30 the other direction after a little return.
Right.
And
Yes.
no, so it was just to me, it was just a dead even game. And I just never felt like, oh boy, the momentum's on TCU's side now, it's over. And I sure never felt like, oh, the momentum's on K-State's side, this is over. The odds played out, but you talk about the darkest black and the brightest white. That's the differential of how we would feel if you were a K-State fan sitting listening to this today. I mean, this is such a giant breath of fresh air. Let's go play. K-State's they're picked 9th. They got a new coach, and they're playing Mississippi State on the road. Are you kidding me? And they're 4-2. All you can do is put a smile on your face and say, I don't need to know how we got here.
Right.
Let's go play the rest of the season. But if you would have lost, we chronicled that. It would be so sad. And when are you going to win your close games? And what about this? And what about a new coach? And all those questions that does no one any good. A big win for K-State. A giant win for K-State.
Well, KU didn't get the giant win, but they kind of felt like they did. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. They lost, okay, but they put up almost 50 points. They lost on a last-second field goal. There were over 1,200 yards in the game between the two teams. Kansas had in the mid-500s. Texas had almost 700. So it was a crazy, old-fashioned couple of years ago. We don't see quite these games anymore in the Big 12, it seemed like. And Kansas was right there. And that's to be celebrated. Now, they used an unusual tactic. Jesse Newell did a great job of chronicling that in the paper today when he talked about the fact that Tom Herman at his press conference was in no way disparaging Kansas. You know, it was like 16 minutes into the press conference, and nobody had asked him about Kansas yet. And then when they finally did, he goes, oh, well, you're finally going to be asking about Kansas. So we have a game this week, huh? And
He was trying to respect Kansas.
And all the Kansas coaches did was take the part where he said, oh, we have a game this week, do we? And they apparently used that for fuel. Good on them, and it worked. So let's talk about the good things first, and then real quickly, because we're going to wrap things up, I want to talk about the other part I thought about. You know, there is no downside, no poo-pooing, putting 47 points and mid-500 yards on the board, especially when you had the new coordinator, and that's just what we talked about beforehand, both on this podcast and on College Game Day.
There's an energy about the program, and they just needed confirmation. What they're doing is playing a style of football. Let's just say they lost. Okay, they lost. Don't pat them on the back too much. If you want to take that attitude, I'll say this. This is a close Big 12. I've talked about it a lot. But when you don't have to win every game and they're not counting up your record, like are you going to a bowl game and all that, you just need some wins here or there. Being explosive, dynamic, wide-ranging in what you're good and bad is just fine. That's not going to work well for Iowa State when they were a preseason ranked team and they needed to win over Northern Iowa. And they needed to play solid football. But for Kansas, who cares if they got whipped by TCU? Who cares? If they play great against Texas and awful against TCU, that's just fine. The variability that Kansas has is what gives them a chance to win games. I think Texas Tech has the variability. They're not the most solid team in the conference. They're unlikely to finish in the upper half of the conference. But I'm telling you what, if you're Oklahoma, you're Texas, I think Texas Tech plays against Texas Thanksgiving weekend. Watch out, Danny. That game's not over because Tech could spark and all of a sudden have 40 points. Kansas can do that. You watch Big 12 football, how many games are old school 24-17 games?
Not many.
Baylor, Baylor
now more. That's what I said. More than a couple of years ago.
Iowa State, Baylor, 23-20, 23-21 was the final score. K-State has been in games that are all way lower than the normal scoring range.
That's why I kind of called the super high scoring game between Texas and Kansas a little old fashioned.
So what you want to be positive? You have that capability. If you can do it against Texas, and I don't care how lacking in focus Texas was, because they didn't care about KU. I mean, they lost to Oklahoma, and they are just beaten up a little bit physically and just down mentally. Sure, Kansas had all that. But when the fourth quarter came around, they had caught their attention. And I know you can't start your engine. You lose the key. If you don't start the engine on Thursday before the game, you don't get us started. But still, they learned their plays, what Kansas was doing. We're going to get mad and shut them down now. We're going to rush the quarterback with a little more intensity. Halftime lasts a long time to change your attitude. Kansas lit them up in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Oh, they're going to trick them with this RPO. There's no tricking in the fourth quarter. Texas knew what was coming, and they could not stop it. The two-point conversion play. Oh, boy, Texas is going to really – no, he's wide open.
Right.
And another great play by Carter Stanley to get him the football. I just think this variability really gives Kansas a chance because Puka Williams is – I haven't seen all the teams in the Big 12 play, but he's probably the most dynamic player in the whole conference. And if you're a new offensive coordinator, what are you going to do? Get him the ball. They're going to give him the ball in every way possible, screens, deep routes. He's going to run the full pass receiving tree like a wide receiver, sometimes out of the backfield, and he's going to get the ball, be put in situations. And I like the receiving core. And Carter Stanley's not scared to go out and win. The offensive line's a veteran. If Kansas can go out and post 40 points against any other Big 12 team, it'll be surprising that they don't come home with a win. They've already played Oklahoma. Okay, so Oklahoma could beat you 50-40, 60-40, and say, oh, well, it's not that close. We weren't that interested. But I don't think any other Big 12 team that can handle Kansas scoring something like 40 points in a game, and they have it in them, because the Texas athletes are not duds. They're as good as anybody else has. Now, you may see a game where they go to Iowa State this year and score 10 points or 7, and you go, this is a TCU game all over again. They're stuffing us on every down. You can break them and package them up and say it isn't going to be today. That's still in Kansas's DNA, but that's okay if the next week they go off. If they can go off in the games they have left, they got chances to win. And all you need is one more win, and it'd be a good year and good for Les Miles. 2 wins? Are you kidding me? 2 Big 12 wins after basketball practice has started? Come on, man. When is the last time that happened? So they're dangerous. They are dangerous. And like Mike Lee on the defensive backfield side, they got some guys that go hit you. They may not be dominant, Danny, but they're not bad. They're not a sieve. You can't just turn it around and hand off the ball or throw an easy pass and go up and down the field. The Iowa States of the world, it's going to be hard for them to move the ball. Brock Purdy's going to have to play well. Giant week this week. I mean, you got Texas Tech.
Right.
And the Red Raiders are a lot like Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that's a cut down to Texas Tech because Texas Tech saying we're dangerous but not reliable seems like that's awful. When Kansas says the same exact thing, it's a dead even game, then you go, wow, this is great. How much is that burden on Texas Tech? It is so hard when all your fans. Let me tell you, Texas Tech, the psychology of their student body and their fans is not good for them to win. This is great for Kansas because there's not one of those Tech fans who are going to, first of all, they don't get the Longhorn Network. Okay, they didn't see the game, and they don't believe it's true. And it's all, they're going to say, oh, Kansas, we'll beat them easily. And if we don't, this is our new coach. I don't know. Maybe he needs to get fired. So Texas Tech comes in with the same exact amount of variability. This game could be won 41-24 by either team. I mean, either team could be leading easily. Like the last score beats to get from 17-24, and you kind of laugh and go, well, that was a laugher for Texas Tech today. What happened to Kansas? It's in there. Both teams are so good on offense at times, but it could go Kansas's way as well, and I think they have a psychological advantage. This reminds me a little bit of Mark Mangino's famous, I think it was Vince Young game, where there's a super bad call, and he said it's all about the money. The official made the call because it's all about the money, and we want to keep Texas up on a pedestal. That's why KU didn't get a call. It's not about that I'm talking about, but they lost a close game that they could have won against Texas, and it vaulted them forward in a new belief to play real football. And Les Miles has a chance for that to happen with this game against Texas.
You answered my other question while you were answering that one, so we can wrap things up. That's the beauty of Stan Weber. And I get to enjoy it twice every week. I hope you enjoy it twice every week right here at Danny Clinkscale's Reasonably Irreverent Commentary and Danny and Stan's Football Weekend presented by Park University, and Saturdays at 9 on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Double dose of Stan every week, talking football.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent Podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent Podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.